Listeners, NerdWallet wants you to let them do the work for you. Looking for auto insurance? The Nerds will match you with top providers in your area in just a few questions. So getting the right rate for you is as simple as going to nerdwallet.com. After all, letting NerdWallet do the work is more than smart. It's genius. Not all applicants will qualify for the lowest monthly payments. NerdWallet Insurance Services Incorporated. California resident license number OK92033. The Rachel Hollis Podcast is proudly sponsored by Amica Insurance. As Amica says, empathy is our best policy. That's why they'll go above and beyond to tailor your insurance coverage to best fit your needs. Whether you're on the road, at home, or traveling along life's journey, their friendly and knowledgeable representatives will work with you to ensure that you have the right coverage in place. Amica will provide you with peace of mind. Go to amica.com to get a quote today. Here's something they don't tell us and they don't prepare us for. You are a different person now. If you have brought a child into your home, or if you have welcomed a new child into your home, maybe you already had a kid and you just brought one home, or maybe it's kid number 2, kid number 3. But most especially when you have your first child, you are a different person. You're a different person, but your mind is the mind of who you used to be. And so you're looking at yourself through this filter that isn't reality. We all do this. We're like, well, my body used to look like this, and I used to have this energy, and I used to be so good about journaling, and I used to run, 22 miles a week. I used to do all the, you are not her anymore. And that's not a bad thing. That's a beautiful thing. Because we are evolving and changing and becoming. But the sooner that you can get on board with the fact that you are not that person anymore, the sooner you can embrace the woman that you are today. Hi, I'm Rachel, and in this show, we talk about everything. Life and work, health and healing, relationships with others and with ourselves. These are stories for the seekers. These are conversations for the curious. This is the Rachel Hollis Podcast. Hi guys, it's Rach. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm glad you're here for a bunch of questions. A bunch of questions and a bunch of answers. If you've never listened in to an Ask Rach episode, let me give you a little bit of an overview. For about, 6 years, we have had a podcast hotline. The number is 737-400-4626. You can call and leave a voicemail and ask me about anything. And people do. Relationships and work advice, career, how to build a business, how to break up with a friend, parenting, like you name it. Over the last half a decade, we've gotten a bit of everything. And today's conversation will be no exception. We're going to hear a bit of everything. What I do in these episodes is I look through a sheet that producer Jack has put together for me that includes sometimes a name, sometimes a little bit of a description, and a link to the voicemail. So when you are hearing it, I am also hearing it for the first time, meaning I don't listen to these and then prepare answers. I listen to these and then answer them in real time as if the person has just asked me the question over coffee, and this is what springs to mind. I like to remind people that I am just a person you know from the internet. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your doctor. I'm not your clergy. If you hear me say something that doesn't resonate with you, just go ahead and ignore it. And if you hear something that you do like, well, consider taking a deeper dive on that in your own life. Let's just start, guys. Let's see what the voicemails have in store for us today. Okay, this one says travel, and I just got back from a trip, so I'm choosing it.
Hi, Rach. My name is Caitlin, and I am from Michigan. I'm just calling in to ask if you have any trips for traveling. I always love to hear about the trips you take with your family. Seems like you guys do a decent amount of traveling. Finally have the amount of PTO from work and the means to take more trips, and it just seems like you kind of need to plan out your year. Just wondering if you have any advice on how you make your travel plans. Thanks for everything you do.
Ooh, I love this question, Caitlin from Michigan. Thank you for asking. Well, I'll tell you a couple of things. Number one, travel is not something that I grew up doing. So if you are listening to this and you would love to travel more in your life for pleasure, not just for work, but you're like, I've never done that before, I'm not really sure how to go about it. I think that being a world explorer and traveling to different places is a learned skill. Just because you've never done it yet doesn't mean that it can't be part of your future. So that's cool. I flew for the first time when I was probably 17 years old, and my kids flew for the first time when they were 3 months old. Every generation is going to be a little bit different. And our travel has looked very different over the years. So when I first started traveling with the kids, it was to Cabo. I live in Los Angeles. I had little babies. And if you're not familiar with the geography, flying from Los Angeles to Cabo is a really common vacation on the West Coast. It's easy to get to. It takes about 2 hours. It was easy to navigate. So it all began with just an annual trip to Cabo. And then we started visiting Hawaii as a family. But when the kids were younger, that was kind of the extent of how much we would travel. As they got a bit older, I was traveling a ton for work, and I incorporated the idea of bringing the kids with me on business trips because I thought that was a really good perspective for them to have. I really wanted them to see, where do we get the money for vacation? Where does that come from? It comes from mommy doing all these things and writing these books and going and doing keynote speeches in different parts of the world. I found that 99.9% of companies were super rad about me bringing little boys with me on a trip. They would let them sit in on meetings. And my kids are really well behaved, so they would be awesome in the meeting. They'd sit quietly and listen, or they'd come and watch me give a keynote speech. But I have found that most companies are super cool about the kids coming along. When I would do press, same kind of thing. And I know other entrepreneurs who do that with their kids as well. They will bring them to for real, legit meetings. They'll just get it approved with the person they're meeting with in advance. I think most people love the idea of kids getting to experience that, so long as they're cool kids. And yeah, that was how I started traveling to different places with them. Fast forward to 2021, 2022, the kids are much older. I had gone through a divorce. So now when I traveled, it would just be me and the kids. And that was rad because I felt like I was able to have a bit more adventure with them and with myself. My ex-husband was a creature of habit. He liked to do the same things over and over, and he didn't like to go to new places. So being on my own with the kids was awesome because I felt like I was getting to sort of have those adventures I hadn't been able to have before, and we were getting to have them together. So that was really cool. Nowadays, travel looks like, well, number one, I'm married to a man who has been a tour manager in the music industry for 20 plus years. So in terms of travel, I've literally done the best that you can do for a partner because all he does is plan for how to get a group of people around the world. And there is nothing that Kez loves more than planning a trip. So that being said, I will tell you that we already know where we're going to be for Christmas and New Year's because that is how far ahead he plans things out. But if you've got 6 people who need to get anywhere, being mapped out 6 months in advance, I think is pretty crucial. I'm not like that. I really just want to show up. Like I want someone to just tell me like, this is the time you're leaving. This is the temperature that you need to pack for. And I'm down to clown. I'm down with whatever itinerary you have set out for me. One of my most hated things in life is someone asking me to dive into the details. And for the first couple of years we were together, Kez would be like, okay, this summer, now mind you, he's asking me this question in December, but he would be like, this summer when we take the kids to Montana, do you want to have dinner at the hotel restaurant every night, or do you want to have some nights off property? And this would be legit 7 months in advance. And I'm like, bro, I cannot think that far ahead. I don't care about that level of detail. I'll eat a sandwich in the hotel room. Like you figure it out. So we are an awesome partnership because he loves to plan and I love to come along and bring energy and vibe and all the things. We do a trip around the holidays every year with the kids because my husband is from England. So that's our time to go back and see his family. And then we go on a ski trip. We started doing an annual summer trip every year with the kids where we would all go to a new state we'd never been to before. But we are not doing that this summer because my oldest son is graduating from high school and we are taking him on a senior trip. Super cool. He doesn't know where we're going. And it's just me, him, and Kez. And we have planned, and when I say we, I mean Kez has planned the most amazing, like once in a lifetime trip for the three of us. But Jackson doesn't know where that's at. But this once in a lifetime trip is so elaborate that will be our only summer trip this year. We'll definitely go to Hawaii because we always go to Hawaii, but we're not going to take the other kids on an additional trip because this one is so intense. So basically we're dropping the little kids, and by little, I mean the three youngest, they go to summer camp. And when they go to summer camp, me, Jackson, Kez go on this adventure, which I'll post photos when we're there. I can't say it beforehand because I don't want him to know. We're basically, he knows the day we're leaving and we're going to tell him the type of weather to pack for, and he's bringing his passport, but he does not know where we are going, which is so cool. I don't know how long we'll be able to keep it a secret, but I'm super excited about this one. But yeah, that's how we travel as a family. I think next year we'll start our summer trip again. We really want to go to Alaska. There's still a lot of states in the US we haven't visited yet. So yeah, that's what we do. But traveling by yourself or traveling with a family is, I think, always going to be easier if you figure it out in advance. Like I'm recording this for you guys in February. And if you want to take a trip this summer with your family, you should already know where that trip is. And you should, if you can afford it, book the flights right now. Book the flights. You can change the flights if you need to, but reserve those spots so you know that you have seats on the plane, so that you know you've got a locked in price, and so you have a plan. You can do a lot of other things later, but at least getting your flights will create the parameter for you taking a trip. Something becomes real when you actually spend money to make it happen. So we talk about, oh, I'd love to go on a vacation. I'd love to visit Hawaii. I'd love to do this. I'd love to do that. Invest money in that idea. So I always say book the flight, because the flight you can change. Worst case scenario, the flight you can change. But at least you've invested some money in it so you know, okay, these are the dates. We're flying out on the 12th and we're coming back on, the 20th. So we know those are the dates that we're on vacation, and you can start backing up from there. So you get the time off work and you start to make plans and like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? What hotel do we want to stay at? Like you can figure all of that stuff out, but start with the flight. Yeah, that's my travel advice. All right. See, I'll answer a question about anything. If you have one, call 737-400-4626.
TaxAct knows filing your small business taxes can be a nightmare, like the kind where you're being chased by a giant W-2 form and you're running and running, but you can never reach the submit button. Or something like that. So, TaxAct offers expert assist with live tax experts to make filing taxes less scary. Now, you can just have pleasant dreams about being chased by other giant, non-threatening paperwork. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Coming into the new year, it was time for a big reset for our family. We had so much fun over the holidays and we indulged in sugar and all the stuff we normally wouldn't have, which is why I love coming back into a routine with Thrive Market. Thrive Market lets you easily find trusted, family-friendly brands and shop based on your needs. So things like low sugar or gluten-free, organic or high protein, you can filter them without the hassle of grocery store trips. Plus, with the Healthy Swap scanner in the app, you can scan a product you already buy and get instant recommendations for cleaner, healthier alternatives. Ready for a junk-free start to 2025? Head to thrivemarket.com/Rach and you'll get 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/Rach. thrivemarket.com/Rach. Let's see what our next question is.
Hi, Rach. This is Andrea. I am currently 6 months postpartum, and I am struggling with a lot of things. So before I was pregnant, I would journal and I would exercise in the morning and I would have a gratitude practice, a meditation, and now that has all gone by the wayside. I'm also struggling with learning how to cope with a bigger body. I grew up in the 2000s where everything was telling me to be thin, and I know now we're living in a society likely that is more body positive, but I am struggling with that too. So the question would be, how do I incorporate these awesome practices that I used to incorporate and build a little bit more self-confidence? Thank you, and I hope this message finds you well. Bye.
Andrea, I say it probably in every episode of Ask Rach, and I'm going to bring it in today too, which is number one, be graceful with yourself. To me, being graceful with yourself means that you stop being so hard on yourself and you stop having some expectation for how you are supposed to show up or how your body's supposed to be or how your motivation's supposed to be as you go through this massive life change. Here's something they don't tell us and they don't prepare us for. You are a different person now. If you have brought a child into your home, or if you have welcomed a new child into your home, maybe you already had a kid and you just brought one home, or maybe it's kid number 2, kid number 3. But most especially when you have your first child, you are a different person. You're a different person, but your mind is the mind of who you used to be. And so you're looking at yourself through this filter that isn't reality. We all do this. We're like, well, my body used to look like this and I used to have this energy and I used to be so good about journaling and I used to run, 22 miles a week. I used to do all you are not her anymore. And that's not a bad thing. That's a beautiful thing because we are evolving and changing and becoming. But the sooner that you can get on board with the fact that you are not that person anymore, the sooner you can embrace the woman that you are today. So yes, you are different, and that is a good thing. And I think that journaling would be amazing, and a lot of those practices you had before will probably serve you now, but you don't have the same time that you used to, and you don't have the same brain that you used to. Postpartum, even when I had 2-year-old, 3-year-old, I was so discombobulated. Yeah, it would be awesome if every single day I had the right level of energy and the right ability to focus, but maybe the baby gets sick, or maybe you didn't sleep very well last night, or maybe your hormones are fluctuating. But there's so much pressure on your ability to think right now that it is going to affect your ability to self-motivate and to self-regulate and to do some of the stuff you used to do. In these instances, I would recommend that you focus on the outcome that you would love, but don't be so rigid on the path to that outcome. So for instance, if you loved your journaling practice because it allowed you to practice gratitude, but let's say you haven't had time lately to sit down and journal your gratitude, well, what if you come up with an easier way to get the same result? What if you create a habit stack? If you're not familiar with this, this is when you put a habit you would like to acquire on the back end of something you already do regularly. So for instance, I'm going to be willing to bet that you sit down and feed your baby multiple times a day. However you feed your baby, with a bottle, with your boob, however you feed the baby, you're feeding the baby at some point during the day. What if you habit stack a gratitude practice inside of feeding the baby, which is like beautiful vibes for this little baby, serves both of you really well? What if as you're feeding the baby, you just out loud say your gratitude? Maybe you tell the baby, like, hey, no one else is around. Who cares? Like, I'm sure the baby would love to hear about your day. I don't care how old the baby is. If you're like, oh, you know what I'm so grateful for today, baby? I was on a walk. Remember when we were on that walk? I know you couldn't see because you were in the sling, but I saw 2 puppies chasing each other, and it was absolutely adorable, and I feel grateful that I got to see those puppies. Oh, and baby, you know what else? I am so grateful because I know you don't get this, baby, but sometimes it's really hard for mommy to stay awake, but I am grateful for my cup of coffee this morning because it was brewed just perfectly and it helped me to wake up and to do what I need to do. So I'm feeling really grateful for something called coffee. And when you're older, you'll get to try coffee and you'll understand why mommy's so grateful for it. But for now, just know I feel really grateful for the coffee. I'm sure you can hear that and like maybe it seems a bit silly to you, but I think it's an awesome practice and a way to get the results you want in a modality that serves the life you currently live. So you're not pushing against resistance. You're not trying to bring back a girl that no longer exists. You're trying to ask, how can I bring some of those things I really loved into the environment, into the lifestyle, into the day-to-day of who I am now? So go through your list of like, I really would love to bring back this and I really would love to bring back that, and ask yourself how you can get the result in a different way. As to your last question about your body and how it has changed, of course it has. It's supposed to. It's supposed to change. Now, the good news is you are in control of your body and you can take care of it in whatever way feels best to you. But I think the way that you pull this off without it feeling negative is that you come up with an affirmation that will really serve, again, the life that you have now. Maybe at this place in postpartum, with your doctor's blessing, you're allowed to start moving your body in ways that feel really good. And maybe you come up with an affirmation or a mantra that you can say, changing my body for the better one day at a time, or I'm making good decisions for me and the baby, or slowly but surely. Just find something that affirms how you are in the process of becoming, but that also you're going at a pace that makes sense for you. Because I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling of our body changing postpartum and also being really hard on ourselves and having really bad self-esteem because we feel like our body should look different than it does. So I think a mantra would have really helped me, just something that I could say over and over that was true, because this is something people get backwards about mantras. They will make up some line that is not grounded in any kind of reality. And so when you say it, your brain is like, no, it's not. But if you're like, I'm in the process of becoming, I am making great choices that are healthy for me and for the baby, I am slow and steady wins the race. Like, make up whatever works, but just make sure that what you are saying feels real and truthful and honest for who you are. And this is for everybody, not just Andrea. Y'all, we have time. We have time. You have time to get your body back. You have time to figure this out. You have time to reestablish your habits. You have time. You have plenty of time. You will never get back this time with your baby. So can you appreciate these moments right now for what they are while simultaneously taking steps that are going to make you feel better about you? Let's try that.
TaxAct knows filing your small business taxes can be a nightmare, like the kind where you're being chased by a giant W-2 form and you're running and running, but you can never reach the submit button. Or something like that. So, TaxAct offers expert assist with live tax experts to make filing taxes less scary. Now, you can just have pleasant dreams about being chased by other giant, non-threatening paperwork. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Next question looks like it might be about a breakup, which we get a lot of here on Ask Rach. If you have your own breakup question, feel free to call 737-400-4626. But let's see what this one's all about.
Hi, Rachel. My name is Caitlin. A while back, I called regarding my relationship, and in your message to me, you had said that you hope I leave, and I did. And sorry, of course I'm emotional again. I did, and now I am struggling with feelings of loneliness. My relationship was a 10-year-long relationship, actually 11. I'm used to having somebody to talk to, even if it's not great. I'm used to chaos, and now my life feels a little bit boring and lonely, and I know that I need to get to know myself again, and I'm not exactly sure where to start. I do struggle a little bit making friends. I have some social anxieties, and I know I need to start figuring out what I want and what I like, and I'm not exactly sure where to go from here. So if you have any advice on how to get to know yourself, how to date yourself maybe, that would be great. Thank you.
Oh yeah, Caitlin. I have all kinds of advice about how to date yourself. But I first want to start with something you touched on that a lot of people experience but don't ever admit to, which is staying in a relationship because at least you've got a partner. Like, they might be the crappiest partner ever. It might be toxic and bad, but at least you know you have someone to talk to, or at least you know you have someone to go to the movies with, or at least you know they'll go get food with you on Friday night. And all of a sudden, you've made this really important choice for your health, for your life, for your growth, but it means that you're by yourself. I have to be honest, I loved being single. OMG, I loved being single. And in fact, if my husband was not the most amazing human ever, I would still be single. And when I say single, I don't mean single like on an HBO series, because I wasn't dating, I wasn't hooking up, I wasn't even really going out. I just loved being alone. That's for sure, because I met my ex-husband when I was very young. I was 18, just had turned 19. I really grew up being in a relationship with him. So I didn't have any time as an adult by myself. And when I got divorced, I loved it so much. And even today, when my husband has to go out of town for work, I love being by myself because it's just being able to do whatever I want to do. Obviously, I got to like take care of my kids and make them dinner, whatever. But I love being able to like, do I want to read? Do I want to watch a documentary about a cult? Do I want to lay around and scroll Instagram for 3 hours like an absolute slug? Guess what? Nobody gets an opinion because nobody's here to see me. And it's so weird because he could not care less. He's not like, what are you doing? Why are you scrolling Instagram? I saw this thing once where someone was talking about the idea of certain personalities where you don't want to be perceived. Like you don't like people to watch you do what you're doing. And I really think I have this. And I really think it stems from Enneagram 3 achiever mentality. Don't stop, like keep pushing, keep doing the things so that I do rest, but I don't like other people to watch me rest. Guess what? I'll talk to my therapist about it. It doesn't matter for today's purposes. My point is that there are certain things that we can only experience when we are by ourselves. So my first thought for you is just to keep leaning into whichever parts of being single you really enjoy. For me, back in the day, it was like ordering Mexican takeout and watching trash documentaries. It was my favorite thing. I hope you have something that's way less sad, but whatever part of being single you really like, do more of that thing. And be really aware as you do it that this is something you get to experience that you didn't get to experience when you were in a relationship. Being lonely is a real thing. And a big reason I don't think I felt lonely when I was single is I had great friends. And whenever I was like, man, I miss people, I'd be like, hey guys, let's go to dinner. Let's go hang out. Come over. We'll cook. Like I had people to hang out with. And I think that's all you need in this instance. You need a crew. And I'm going to keep giving you guys this advice because in one way or another, it keeps coming up. You don't find friends by going around being like, where are my friends? Where are my friends? Where are my friends? I think that the way we find friends as an adult is to join a club or an organization or an activity that we are really excited about because there will be other people at that club or activity that also love the thing we love. And if you can find people who love the thing that you love, you will never run out of something to talk about. Like one of my really good friends is about to turn 60. 60. I'm 42. We are really good friends because we are writers and also because we love history. We're just nerds. But we have found so much common ground over the last decade, and I love hanging out with her and going on vacation and meeting up for dinner and doing these things, even though on the surface, you would never look at our lives and be like, oh, those two people make sense together. In fact, same with my husband. Nobody was looking at us on paper thinking that we would work together. But we had so many common interests. We liked to do the same things that we became friends. Don't fight the feelings of loneliness. A lot of people are like, well, I shouldn't be lonely. No, your spirit's telling you that it wants some company. So find, like right now, when you're done listening to me talk, go research and find a club, find a group, find a meetup, find a conference, find a retreat, find something that you can go do where you will meet like-minded people and be open to who you're going to meet on the path. I was sitting on the beach last week. I was watching Noah play in the waves. I was sitting on the beach and this like old hippie guy walks by me. I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? I talked to him for legitimately an hour. For 1 hour, this old hippie stood by me on the beach and told me about his life. Told me about every concert he ever went to, how he drove cross country, how he did this, how he did that, his ex-wife, his children. Like, I know Larry's entire story. I know everything. And I barely said 2 words, but I found him interesting. And I was like, well, clearly this guy wants to chat with somebody, so I'll be that. I'm your Huckleberry. But again, nobody on paper is looking at me and Lair Bear and thinking that we would have anything in common. And we had a delightful conversation. And every single day for the rest of the time we were in Hawaii, whenever I saw him, I'd be like, Larry, and he'd be like, Rachel. So don't restrict yourself with who you think your friend should be. Because if you are looking for people who look just like you, who dress just like you, who think just like you and talk like you, how boring. How boring. You had 10 years of sameness with your ex. It is time to shake things up, get a new environment, get some new energy, get some new life. And that looks like you actually taking steps. You said, I'm used to chaos. Well, what that says to me in a very unhealthy way is that you're used to energy in a space. Not all energy is good. We can be in spaces that have high energy and it's something chaotic or toxic or bad, but it still feels like energy. So what will happen if you put your body in environments where it's good energy and it's good vibes? You know what'll happen, Caitlin? Awesomeness. So I'm challenging you to go out and start trying things and understand that you might try 5 clubs before you find one that fits. You might get into it and be like, this is not for me, but good for you. You tried something. You never know who you're going to meet along the way. You never know what kind of experiences you're going to get. You never know what kind of stories you'll be able to tell later, but put yourself out there and see what happens. Guys, I hope today's conversation was helpful for you. I mean, you're still here, so something about it must have been interesting. I will be back soon with more conversation. We show up Monday through Friday here on the podcast with new episodes every day, so make sure you check back tomorrow to see what's going on. Until next time, as always, I love you, and I'm rooting for you. The Rachel Hollis Podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble.
The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power and advanced Audi tech. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
TaxAct knows filing your small business taxes can be a nightmare, like the kind where you're being chased by a giant W-2 form and you're running and running, but you can never reach the submit button. Or something like that. So, TaxAct offers expert assist with live tax experts to make filing taxes less scary. Now, you can just have pleasant dreams about being chased by other giant, non-threatening paperwork. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.